Hey guys, welcome back to my channel. So it's been a little bit since I've done a Stephen King centered video. So today I wanted to explore really the best part of Stephen King novels, and that's the villains. So lucky number 13, I want to go through the top 13, I guess in order from 13 to 1 being the most evil villain or the worst villain, however you want to put it, the coolest villain, because it is really why all of us read Stephen King is for the baddies. So 13 to 1, top 13 Stephen King villains. Kicking off the list at number 13 is everyone's favorite Saint Bernard, Cujo, by the novel from the same name, Cujo. So Cujo was one of his earlier novels, and there's something that really hits home with this villain because of the fact that there is really nothing supernatural about it. It is a Saint Bernard that gets rabies and terrorizes a mother and her young son while they're stuck in their car in the middle of the summer, and the car won't start, so they're stranded. Basically, I think what hits home the most with this, especially when you're reading the novel, not so much when you're watching the movie, is that at the beginning you're reading and you're in the mind of the dog, and you know, before he gets rabies, he's just a normal dog. He's just a fun-loving dog, and there's really nothing evil about him. And it's how he transitions and how the rabies takes over his mind and the disease takes over, which is kind of sad when you really think about it. If you're a pet owner at all, so I mean, he was pretty tough to deal with. A giant Saint Bernard dog, rabid, would be tough to deal with. So. And it just hits home. Like I said, nothing supernatural about it, so you feel like, you know, anyone can encounter this in everyday life. Coming in at number 12 is The Boogeyman, from the short story titled The Boogeyman from Night Shift. This one is a little bit lesser known, I would say. It doesn't really get talked about, but I mean, on a general sense, what's more scary than The Boogeyman? It's something we've all grew up hearing about. It is a staple in the horror genre. And the way Stephen King explores it, it was pretty terrifying, smothering kids in their sleep, even snapping their necks at night. So it was a pretty graphic short story, and it's just really spooky to think about. The term boogeyman has been used so many times, whether it's in the Halloween franchise with Michael Myers or in so many other things in the horror genre, like I said. So Stephen King's version of it was truly terrifying, so comes in at number 12 for me. Coming in at number 11 is Jack Torrance from The Shining. Now, I know a bunch of you may say that it wasn't exactly Jack himself that was the villain, but it was the Overlook Hotel and the evil that inhabited Jack. But I am using Jack on this list because he was the one who manifested. It was manifested through him, I guess you could say. So yes, Jack Torrance or the Overlook Hotel, if you want to get technical. This was obviously a terrifying villain. The way he terrorized his son and his wife going through the hotel, I'm sure we all know the story. We've either seen the movie or read the book if you're watching this video. So Jack Torrance comes in at number 11 on my list. Opening up the top 10 is the first of two villains from the novel It, Henry Bowers. Henry Bowers played a great secondary villain to Pennywise in this story because Pennywise was so heavy on the supernatural side that Henry Bowers just gave you that sense of reality, and it's a bully. So who hasn't encountered a bully in their days? And Henry truly was evil. Some of the things he did, you know, whether it was trying to carve his initials into Ben's stomach, among other things, he was just crazy. And it seemed like he really portrayed him to be like a serial killer in the making, which made it that much worse. So yes, Henry Bowers kicks off the top 10. At number 9, it's Annie Wilkes from Misery, a truly disturbing character. There's something very scary about dealing with somebody who's just not sound of mind, somebody who feels like they're not exactly doing anything wrong, someone who you just can't really reason with because they're completely insane. That's what really was terrifying about this villain, was the fact that if you ever did encounter someone like this, it would be a pretty tough spot to be in. Next up is the demon Tack from The Regulators and Desperation. I'll just show you Desperation for the sake of the video. So Tack is a ancient demon that can possess human beings, basically. He is in Collie and Tragian in Desperation, the police officer, and in The Regulators, it was pretty weird. I believe he was in a autistic child, a special needs child, something like that. I read it a long time ago, so I apologize if I'm messing that part up. But yeah, so basically Tack is like a demon that loves to wreak havoc on people in the real world and just gets kicks out of it. So, I mean, always pretty disturbing when you're dealing with, and scary when you're dealing with any sort of demon possessing human beings. So yes, Tack comes in at number 8. Next up at number 7 is Blaine the Mono from Wizard and Glass and the Wastelands in the Dark Tower series. Blaine the Mono, who is represented here in Charlie the Choo Choo, is a evil train that basically really tries to kill Roland and his quartet at the end of the Wastelands. Blaine ends up playing some sadistic game of riddles with Roland and his quartet in order for them to either get out alive or end up dying. So he's a sadistic train, like I said, who gets his kicks out of messing around with people like Roland and his quartet. And it was actually a pretty funny scene and a pretty one of the better parts of the Dark Tower series, in my opinion, the end of the Wastelands and the beginning of Wizard and Glass. So, I mean, if you haven't read it, the Dark Tower is worth checking out for that reason alone, but I'm a huge Dark Tower fan, so read the series. At number 6, we're going to Carrie, and the villain, in my opinion, is Margaret White, Carrie's mom. Carrie was just a innocent bystander in all of this, and you know, you can't really blame her for doing what she did at the end there, or that happening, because she just got tormented by whether it was the kids at school or her mother, who I thought was completely worse. Her mother was a religious fanatic who was totally off her rocker, and you know, she did things like locking her in a closet for hours and hours on end, just like basically torturing her daughter. So Margaret White truly was insane, and definitely did have coming what ended up happening to her. So Margaret White comes in at number 6. At number 5, we've got the head vampire, Kurt Barlow from Salem's Lot. Stephen King's take on the vampire genre here was a masterpiece. Again, one of his very early novels. I think it might have been his second. But yeah, awesome novel. I really, really love this book. Kurt Barlow was very intimidating vampire. You know, vampires these days come in all shapes and sizes and temperaments, and Kurt Barlow truly was very evil and very scary. So Kurt Barlow coming in at number 5. At number 4, this might be a little low for some of you, but I'm going to go with Randall Flagg, and I show the Darkman poem here to represent him because there's just too many novels that he appears in to name them all. He goes by so many different names, just to name a few: Walter O'Dim, The Man in Black, The Walking Dude, Martin Broadcloak, Walter Paddock, The Ageless Stranger, The Grinning Man, The Man with No Face, and The Dark Man. Randall Flagg just wreaks havoc all over the Stephen King multiverse. He truly is an evil character who just loves to see, you know, the downfall of humanity and individuals. So Randall Flagg, awesome character. If you're a constant reader that reads a lot of Stephen King, you've come across him many times, I'm sure. And he just keeps reappearing and keeps being as evil as ever. So number 4, Randall Flagg. Coming in at number 3 is the entity, He Who Walks Beyond the Rose, from the short story Children of the Corn from Night Shift. Anytime you're dealing with a cult, a cultish atmosphere, it is scary, in my opinion. Again, same thing along the lines of Annie Wilkes, when you're dealing with people who are completely insane and who are completely driven by this higher power that they believe to be right, and who is making them do all these evil things. That's just a very scary scenario. And that's what happens here in Children of the Corn, where all these kids in Gatlin, Iowa, I believe, just end up killing all their parents because they start following Isaac, who worships He Who Walks Beyond the Rose, who is this godlike figurehead that he can only hear, I guess, and he's portraying the message to everyone else through him. So very cool story, very cool movie as well with Linda Hamilton, and He Who Walks Beyond the Rose comes in at number 3. Finishing second on this list is an underrated villain, in my opinion, which is why I have him at number 2, Andre Leno from Storm of the Century. Not a lot of people talk about this screenplay, and not a lot of people talk about this villain, but this guy was extremely evil. He was basically an evil wizard. It doesn't get much more evil than that. He displayed no weaknesses, in my opinion, throughout this entire screenplay, which why I put him at number 2 here. Like, there wasn't any way of defeating this guy that was even hinted to, which is what makes him so scary. Basically, all he was looking for was someone to carry on his line. So he goes to this town who's about to get snowed in, and basically the whole time he just says, "Give me what I want and I'll go away." And he was 100% serious about that, and all he wanted was a child that he could groom to take his place. So basically, if there was a weakness, it was his mortality, because he knew that his days eventually were going to come to an end. So yeah, Andre Leno, if you haven't read this or watched the miniseries, I highly suggest you check it out. This was really good, and sometimes I wish Stephen King wrote some more screenplays, because I enjoyed reading this as much as some of his novels. And coming in at number 1, everyone's favorite clown, Pennywise, or Bob Gray, or any form he decides to take. What can I say? Everybody knows about it, whether it's the movies, the miniseries, or the novel itself. Pennywise is just an awesome character. He is so evil in any form. He basically inhabits your worst nightmare. So what gets more scary than that? I saw the miniseries with Tim Curry when I was like 5 years old, and I was terrified of clowns for basically my entire life. So this holds dear to me. It was the first Stephen King book that I read as well. So coming in at number 1 is Pennywise. Okay, guys, thanks for checking out my video. Once again, if you love reading, if you love horror, and you love Stephen King, give me a subscribe. Give me a like, obviously. Those are always welcome, and we'll keep making videos for you. We'll talk to you guys soon, and happy Halloween.